Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to just give a few minutes for people to be able to jump on here and join our webinar today. We're going to be talking about how to align the chakras to help to heal past trauma. So welcome, Paige. Thanks for joining us. If you want to drop into the chat where you're coming from. I am broadcasting from Washington State in a little town near Port Townsend called Port Ludlow. So I'm very happy to be here with all of you guys. So I will just introduce myself. I am an acupuncturist living in Washington State. I specialize in helping people heal from trauma, people who are energetically sensitive or empathic, especially as I am energetically sensitive as well. And I studied in Seattle, the Seattle Institute of Oriental Medicine, where I learned acupuncture and some different forms of body work like shiatsu, as well as feeling the subtleties of the osteopathic rhythms in the body. And I studied some other osteopathic schools with the Baral Institute, where we learned visceral manipulation and neural manipulation. So working with the organs and the nervous system and the nerves to help to heal and align the body and to help really facilitate a process where the body is healing itself. And so when the body has some dysfunction, the dysfunction often has to do with the structure not being in the right alignment. And so listening to those cues of how the body can be in better structure. So I am going to start a little presentation here for you guys. Give me a second to share the screen. Aloha, thank you watching from Patterson, California. Welcome from Patterson. I don't know exactly where that is, but we have somebody else from California too. She's from Sonoma County. And I'm just working on getting the screen to share. Let's see if, no, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, I'm now sharing the proper screen. So today we're going to talk about how to align your chakras to heal past trauma. And this has been just a huge topic for me in the last year or two, is to kind of understand how trauma imprints into our nervous system and creates physiological responses. I've been learning a lot about the vagus nerve and how the vagus nerve can almost act as a pinched nerve. And it also is a nerve that innervates so many other structures, so much other parts of the body as far as the viscera, the organs. And so this can cause a lot of dysfunction in the body and trouble regulating the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So we're going to talk about a few types of trauma. There is, of course, just acute and chronic trauma, which just kind of divides it into something that it's been around for a really long time or it's just brand new. So complex trauma is a early development trauma, it affects somebody when they're young enough that they don't have secure attachments and they have trouble understanding just how to function in the day-to-day world because they don't have those secure attachments to their primary parents. And so the issues of trust can be very difficult. And so thinking about the chakras, we're balancing the very basic root chakra and the earth centers at the bottoms of the feet. And those things, if we don't have an opportunity to grow, if we're not living in the same area, we're moving around a lot, we're transplanted, we will inevitably get some trouble with our roots and those roots being pulled up or unhealthy. We have generational trauma, which can be trauma acquired through epigenetic inheritance. And this is very interesting because they've done some studies on lab mice, and they found that in 3 different generations, they were able to prove that through 3 generations, a shock that was applied to the mice would affect their children, their pups would be affected by that. So they would apply a shock, and then they would give them a smell like cherry blossoms. And after the next couple generations, they would try it again, but they wouldn't apply the shock. They would only apply the smell, and the mice would have a cortisol release as a result of that. And I know that it's possible, we don't really study it, but it's possible for epigenetic trauma to go through multiple generations. People who live in war-torn areas, or they have grandparents who are refugees, which, in the United States, there's a lot of people who are transplanted or who moved here. So that is something that is coming up a lot. Then we have collective trauma, trauma shared by a group of people who experience a similar event. So we all know of a recent example of collective trauma, and several other examples throughout history of how many people are affected by an event, and that can be really traumatic. And then we have past life trauma, which is often there's symptoms that we have that we can't explain logically. It's similar to generational trauma in that sometimes you just have a feeling that there's words and phrases that you go over, like I feel like I'm a prisoner, or like I feel like I'm always starving. You're not starving really if you had to wait to get your dinner, but it may feel like you're actually starving. You may have feelings and emotions that relate to old stuff that's happened in a past life or in a past generation that you are kind of taking on in your nervous system as your own. So those are some examples of types of trauma. Now the chakras. The chakra is a Sanskrit word for wheel. It's a spinning energy center that corresponds with major nerve plexuses. And so each chakra is just a really dense, especially if you think about the solar plexus, right? If somebody kind of nudged you in the solar plexus, it really doesn't feel good because there's so much energy coming from that area. And there are 7 major chakras, but there are actually 114 total chakras in the body. And so there are a lot of nerve areas and energy centers that we process. Now with trauma, we often have a soul loss. And I really enjoy this quote by Gabor Mate that says, trauma is not what happens to us, but what happens inside of us as a result to what happens to us. And that trauma is manifested in a disconnection from self. So when something happens, let's say that we're in a car accident, parts of ourself are able to disconnect to avoid that trauma to try and it's like a scattering effect. You get hit and then your energy disperses. Trauma creates an energetic imprint in both the form of biophotons, which are emitted when an organism is under stress. Hi, Charity. Thanks for joining us. Okay. And so we were just talking about the idea of soul loss in trauma and how trauma can create this fingerprint on our energetic center, which is our wheel. And trauma creates these biophotons, which happen anytime the organism is under stress, and they've studied this with different types of organisms, that they create these biophotons that they inhabit the energetic field. And so this is almost like a disturbance, and this can kind of explain sometimes why somebody might have the same injury multiple times in a row, because they have created these photons in their energetic field, and that can be a disturbance to the body, which it wants to be whole and connected. Okay, and let me just get this next bit in here. Oh, okay, here we go. Soul retrieval. If you guys have heard of the shamanic practice of returning soul fragments to the person, shaman is, the word means one who sees in the dark. Let's see. Oh, I don't think you guys can see my screen right now. Sorry about that. Okay. Share. Okay. Here we go. Soul retrieval is a shamanic practice of helping the body get these soul fragments back. So the theory is that when somebody goes through an event that's traumatic, their experience is dispersed. They feel dispersed and their energy kind of goes out everywhere, and they're able to return back to them. And so this is often traditionally done with drumming, to try and remind you, where your soul's journey is and bring you back to that. And so I like this. The word shaman, I didn't actually know, is one who sees in the dark. And so a shaman can go through the darkness and find what is needed to help the person or the patient in their journey. They're able to see energy or move energy. And so sound healing, what I have been doing with the tuning forks is working with the body and working with the bioenergetic field around the body to help to return these fragments of photons from the field back to the chakra or the wheel of energy so that it can be processed more efficiently. And so the body, it has all this energy in these energy centers, but when there's dispersion of the energy center out into the field, it can create stress on the body. And so the idea of the tuning forks and the sound healing is that you literally are using the tuning forks to find the frequency that is slightly out of balance and comb that frequency and comb it back into the center where the body can more effectively manage the traumatic events and process the trauma without types of therapy where you're talking about the trauma and you're actually reactivating the trauma. So it's almost like we are a record and we have this energetic information around us, and in order to learn about what's going on, we can actually find the information on the record based on where we were at a certain point in time. And that will actually be about 6 feet around the body, is the information from birth and even potentially a little bit of information from before birth, from our past lives that we have, to tell us what might have happened. And then the body is self-tuning. And so all the therapies and modalities I enjoy are therapies where the body is healing itself. And we are witnessing, as a therapist, we're witnessing the body healing itself and allowing that process to happen in the most effective and productive way, without interrupting the body. And so when the body actually hears a frequency that's out of balance, it will self-tune, because the body has, each cell has little antenna receptors on them that are like tuning forks. And so the body doesn't really like having a sound that's dissonant or out of tune. And this is kind of similar with the organs. Our organs and our organ systems are really, really resilient. And so when there's certain sounds that can be made to the organs to help the organ to hear what it sounds like and to shift itself back into balance. And this is a good example of how sound healing is used in medicine is lithotripsy, breaking up kidney stones with ultrasound machines. And thank you for joining us. If you want to drop where you're coming from in the chat, that would be excellent. And then let me just check to see. Hi. Yeah, so, okay, awesome. Yeah. So yes, there is a woman that has popularized sound healing. Her name is Eileen Day McCusick, and she's just has some wonderful, there's a book I have here actually called Tuning the Human Biofield, and it explains the physics and the science of sound healing and how that works. And I will type that into the chat so everybody knows about this book. So yeah, it explains the whole idea of biophotons and how they can be processed effectively by the body. Okay. Okay, so one thing that we can do for trauma is the process of grounding. And grounding is walking barefoot on the earth, or just generally doing things that are helpful in connecting to the earth and connecting our feet to the ground. So we have chakras. We have lots of chakras besides our 7 major chakras. But one of my favorite is the feet chakras. And the feet chakras correspond to Chinese medicine, the kidney 1 point, which is called the bubbling spring. And that is what connects to the energy centers of the earth. And then the earth your body will pick up this bubbling energy, this wave that kind of moves through your system. And then that will connect with your crown and with the energy that you're receiving from the sunshine. So sun and grounding, earthing is really effective for helping to deal with traumatic events. I noticed that when animals have trauma, they shake, they try and shake things off, they try and resolve that trauma before they move on and they, pick up where they left off and they start running again. They will kind of shake and resolve that trauma. Humans, we don't really shake. We don't really express ourselves in that way. We can walk barefoot, and just massaging your feet. It is helpful. I found to massage with some oils, especially St. John's wort oil, to help the body to ground. And so when we find all ways to connect with the earth, we can really resolve some of these issues, and make a safe space for us to return to in our body. Now, the reason that these things work is the electromagnetic charge. Positive ions are typically associated with inflammation and with free radicals, which can be damaging to the body. But negative ions are associated with the earth and with salt water. So once we connect to those negative ions, we can release some of our positive ions, and that can help to neutralize any traumatic feelings in the body. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different chakras and how they are associated with trauma, and how we might feel if these things are out of alignment. And so the root chakra is associated with the planet Mars, and so it's a very primal food, sexuality, safety, security. It's also associated with the brain stem and the adrenal glands. And so the fight or flight response, there's actually a third element to that, which is the freeze response. So when we are in a state of shock, we can actually get paralyzed, and we won't be able to do anything in the hopes that the person or thing that's hunting us or attacking us is going to think that we are dead, and leave us alone. So often this can be associated with overthinking, overdoing, feeling like we're not finding our proper balance, and also the bladder is associated with the root chakra. So anything having to do with the reproductive organs can relate to a dysfunction of the root chakra. And next, the sacral chakra is associated with the planet Mercury, which it took me a little bit to figure this out, but the planet Mercury is associated with communication, technology, and travel. And the sacral chakra, it's associated with the small intestine and digestive organs and some lower reproductive organs as well. They definitely have sort of these two chakras kind of work together, and they are also affected by just severe traumatic events can cause imbalances in those chakras. But the small intestine, being an organ that produces neurotransmitters and dopamine for the brain, can be very connected with the chakras of the brain. And so this governs our ability to think and to rationalize as well. So yeah, trauma to the sacral chakra. This can be often related to sexual trauma or related to issues with finances, insecurity with finances, or trauma around money or like security, just feeling like you don't have enough. And so often when people have these lower GI issues with elimination and issues with like the colon, this can be related to imbalances in this sacral chakra, causing us to our wheels are not turning properly, our guts are not feeling completely in their balance. So then we have the solar plexus, and the solar plexus is associated with Jupiter, which is connected to growth, expansion, vibrance, and it has a lot to do with our ego and our drives and motivations in life. But it also has to do with our inner child and embracing that inner light, inner sunshine, inner wisdom that we have when we put our foot forward in life. And so the solar plexus, it can be affected by our relationship with our mother and our relationship with our father, especially if we grew up in a house with a lot of anger. That may affect how we take things on, and maybe we blame ourselves, or a lot of actually guilt and shame themes are more prevalent in the sacral chakra, but they can also be prevalent in the solar plexus. Things like feeling worried, feeling rage, feeling anger, those can be affected by our relationships with our mother and father, as well as how we communicate with others. Are we able to express our anger? Was it a healthy thing to express our anger, or was that something that we were frowned upon doing? And so in the rib cage, these things can get stuck. And I found, energetically working with the energetic field, but also working with the organs themselves, there's definitely a correlation between things, the trauma that we do have, especially this area has to do with childhood trauma, and how our digestive system functions effectively. So this is a really big one. This is, our middle, and this is our stomach, our spleen, our pancreas, our liver, our gallbladder, and then the components of our intestines, as well as the upper, like the duodenum, the first part of our small intestine. And so we can have a lot of brain fog, a lot of digestive issues, a lot of anger, unexpressed anger that can negatively affect this. And then also trouble focusing. If we have brain fog, we may have trouble focusing, or we may have like ADD. So we have difficulty just carrying out what we need to do and carrying out our best courses of action in this, because this is a lot about how we act and how we move throughout the world. And then we have our heart chakra, which is, of course, governed by Venus, the planet of love. And this affects how we're seen in the world, how we express love, joy, bliss, gratitude, how we support each other, and also, feelings of hurt, feelings of jealousy, feelings of rejection, and not connecting. So the heart's like pretty amazing in that it spans like I think up to 10 feet. I think that they've physically measured a field of the heart around 5 feet around the body. But in this way, without communicating to somebody directly, we can actually communicate with our heart chakra and project ourselves and project our energy into the world. And so that's why, sometimes you get tingling spidey senses when you are feeling somebody in the room with you, or you feel somebody's behind you. And so your energy centers express themselves that way. And interestingly enough, the heart, it actually sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So the heart is intelligent and knows what is going on. So this is also something that we can be negatively affected by, relationships with our caretaker, relationships with our children, and people who are overly caretaking, overly accommodating to people in their family and people that they want to provide for. This can create a sense of resentment in the heart and those negative energies. Also anxiety insomnia, grief, sadness and loss, depression can all affect the heart chakra and make things not flow as effectively. So this is the heart, the organ, the pericardium, the thymus gland, and also the lungs can be very connected with the heart. And so then we have the throat chakra, and the throat chakra affects communication. It's ruled by Saturn, which is the planet of restrictions and limitations. And so people often, like, I'm a third child in the family, so I wasn't really heard. My voice wasn't heard. So hard to express yourself that way. And that really affected how I was able to communicate with others. I had to kind of get past those restrictions and limitations. So yeah, the throat chakra is definitely affected by how we communicate with others, if we're able to be seen and heard, and if we feel that connection with other people. We can feel blockages, and that can cause issues with our thyroid glands, and that can cause issues with the voice. So then we have the third eye chakra, which has to do with how we connect with the universe and our intuition. And so any overthinking can affect the third eye chakra. We can feel maybe we had a traumatic event, or like I've heard of people saying like, oh, in a past life, maybe I was a witch, and so I had to block my intuition in order to survive in this day and age. So the third eye chakra can cause us to be thinking about the past, worrying about the future, just generally overthinking. And this is ruled by the sun. And so it's the energy of the sun, how other people see us, and how we connect. And last but not least, the crown chakra is how we connect to time and space in the universe. And generally, I think that trauma really affects the crown chakra. Not only do you have head injuries and concussions that can affect how the crown chakra connects to the universe, but we can also get this lack of flow and this lack of energy flow that it just feels really good when we're moving in that way. Okay, so now we have our journey through the chakras that I want to tell you about, that I'm really excited. So I'm going to pause the share and find my next piece of information here. Okay. So okay. Now, share. Glow, from frustration to flow, aligning the 7 chakras to release past trauma. I came up with this when I was learning about like the flow of energy, of beauty and time and space through the crown chakra. I have had some head injuries, and feeling that flow going through all 7 chakras and feeling that rainbow is something I think that is so important. So here is my page, and it is on Teachable, and I will just go ahead and drop this into the chat here, so that you guys can access it. There we go. Through ancient wisdom and modern innovations, we can work with the energetic body to rewrite the trauma story and show up in a way that is more aligned with the vibration of the universe. So I have a little quote here about joy. Your joy looking for a way to express itself. And I just love that. I think that if you just are able to embrace it, the joy is out there for you. And so, are you ready to resolve imbalances in your energetic system and upload a new template for freedom, resilience, and bliss? You are meant to cultivate deep connections with the earth and exist in harmony with the flow of nature. Together, we can rewrite the story of trauma that has imprinted on your energetic field so that you can live a life filled with abundance. So this is the course that I am creating. It is an 8-week course where we'll go through a journey of the chakras or energy centers, beginning with the earth chakra at the bottoms of the feet. And so this is to kind of help us to really get stabilized. The root chakra is stable, but the earth chakra helps us to really stabilize and to get grounded through the process. And so in addition to these lectures, these little lectures and meditations and just worksheets on how to balance the body and balance the mindset and help to move forward with abundance. We are going to have, in our time together, we're going to have 5 group sessions in which we can focus on healing the collective trauma, resolving epigenetic influences, as well as releasing childhood trauma. And with everybody in the group, we're also going to have 3 private sessions in which we work with what is coming up in this series, which includes balancing the organs, unlocking these blockages in the nervous system, so allowing the nerves, the organs, the viscera, and the ligaments all to flow freely, and supporting the system to help balance and alignment. And so we can create these profound shifts with the combination of these deep energy healing as well as the sound vibrations. And then at the end, we're going to come back together as a group for a full moon party, sound bath, as we integrate our journeys together. So this course, it is like really exciting to be offering a brand new course. This is I'm a little bit new at, online marketing and just kind of shifting into the new era here. But this is really exciting to be able to offer something like this. And so this is going to include the 3 sessions, one-on-one with me. They're usually about an hour or so, 5 group sessions. And then they all include recordings so that you can listen to them and you can re-experience that healing process and you can continue to integrate as needed. So we have 8 modules, 8 meditations, as well as some worksheets and this full moon party. And then we'll also have access to a group where we can all connect and we can create community around this. So the total value of this course, which is that's what I'm gonna be asking for the course in the coming renditions of this. But since this is a beta launch for me, instead of $1,252, I'm gonna be asking for $597. So this is an amazing way to get a lot of different modalities of healing comprehensively and effectively, and to do it in a powerful way with other people that are like-minded. So if you are ready to rewrite your story of trauma, are wondering who you would be without emotional discomfort, want to enhance your intuition, and want to engage in more mindful practices, craving expansion, we can work together to shift these things. So we are opening enrollment for the course, and then the course will begin with the new moon, which I like to do. I like to start and plant intentions with the new moon on March 15th. And then after that, it'll be open for people to start booking their one-on-one sessions. First group session will be March 23rd. And then the weekly content will be posted. Recordings will be available after the sessions, as well as a date for the full moon party and the final group healing session. And so we're going to go comprehensively through the chakras and work on energetic imbalances. And so we have some samples, and there's lots of price plans and a little bit more about me if you wanted to read that on your time here. So I'm going to pause the share so that I can show you some more information here. Enrollment is open until March 14th. So if you guys want to go ahead and get on that, we are actually offering a early sign up bonus. If you sign up by March 6th, you'll get access to my course, which is an email course called Ritual Immersing Yourself in Ancestral Practices That Cultivate Connection, a 28-day email course with just these daily bits of poetry and data about how we can find the best rituals. So there's different things that you can do to feel good and to cultivate a sense of connection to the universe and to life as a whole. And if you wanted to sign up by the end of this call and get a 30-minute bonus tune-up session, that is what I'm offering for you guys. So yeah, I would love to hear any questions that you guys have. So if you want to go ahead and I will stop the share. Okay. Anybody want to type a question into the chat or drop on here and ask a question? Well, I'm glad that we had such a good time together talking about the body and the biofield and how we can help to shift our energetic imprint of trauma using sound therapy, using music, using tuning forks, and generally grounding and supporting the body's electromagnetic field. And I would love it if you guys have any feedback for me about the talk, if you want to get in touch. I am on Facebook as handle is Joy Point Clinic, and I'm also on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is Joy Point Clinic as well. So you can get in touch with me on either of those avenues, and we can just explore this a little bit more. I'm going to be booking some phone calls too to discuss the offerings that are available. So thank you so much for attending my talk today, and I hope you guys all have a really beautiful evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.